Hello again. Welcome to Conversations with Affiliates. My name is Danilo Petranovic. I work here at the Abigail Adams Institute. This afternoon, I have pleasure to welcome Mr. Manuel Lopez to the Institute. You are one of very few people, I think, who both tries to maintain a very serious and active intellectual life, even theoretical life, if I can say that, while having a regular 9 to 5 business career. Or how's that work? Is that difficult? Do you thrive?
But the most powerful attraction to politics, I think, is the moral, the desire for justice, a certain excitement. I think about righteousness, about making the world good, and that obviously is closely connected to religious impulse, and I think is the reason why, or is one reason why, the introduction to philosophy, I think, is best done through political philosophy. And in Plato, his largest work, and I think the work he thought was key to introducing young people to philosophy, is Republic. And the primary question there is, what is justice? Mm-hmm. That's not to say that philosophy is only thinking about justice, but being able to step into it, you do have to, it seems to me, resolve and understand those impulses, the moral, political impulses, moral, political, religious impulses. Yeah. And so, I would say that's crucial, and just basic. And also, I would say, and I think this is very important for me, these simple, naive-sounding questions that Socrates presents. Does anyone do wrong voluntarily? It makes him sound so naive. Like, doesn't he know that there are evil people around, or it's naive sounding, certainly. But the thing is, people haven't. They're not clear about these things. They haven't thought it out. They have all kinds of contradictory ideas about it. Yeah. And you see that it's not just in Plato. I mean, in other words, it's in every great author. These kinds of questions recur again and again. I know we were just doing the Tempest, and certainly just the other day talking about the Tempest, and you have someone like Caliban, and someone like Antonio. Antonio conspiring to evict his brother and to kill a king and so forth, and so this is the heart of evil. And then but then you hear Antonio's speech, and he gives a justification for it, Mm-hmm. And the question is the justification simply to be understood as a rationalization, or does he himself, Antonio, believe that he's a good person, fundamentally a good person, that that all these people are standing in the way of him, but they're clods, and he's the one who could really he's the one who deserves to be ruler, and you get the same thing in Macbeth, and it's just an example that in every author you can't avoid, if you're a serious thinker, dealing with this fundamental question.
No, this is very good. And I'm glad you brought that up. One question I have for you is, so you've obviously been wrestling with sometimes called the big questions, the eternal questions, everlasting questions, and you identified some of those for us in today's conversation. But tell us, I'm curious what you would say. What do you think? Have you, and in what sense have you grown in your understanding of some of these questions over the last, over however many years you've been pursuing them now, couple of decades at least, right? Yeah. Give us an example of, because one critique of our program, let's say, the Great Conversations, you guys just keep asking questions, same questions all over again. Doesn't it get a little tiring? Tell us, how do you make an advance in this kind of work? What does an advance look like?
That's an excellent question. It's a difficult question to answer. I would maybe break it apart in two ways. One is simply the question Socrates raises, is education possible? Is that possible? And meaning that, you are what you are, and you have your passions, and these passions and these situation you're in and so forth, characteristically they go along with having certain opinions and distortions of the world that you fall into, and it's just characteristic in life that you keep on falling into the same kind of mistakes again and again, and that's a sign of being something in particular, that you are what you are, and a sign of the power of the hopes, I would say too, that naturally we all have hopes for happiness and powerful good things that we want, and some of the opinions we have, I think, protect us and protect, but blind, protect/blind us from seeing perhaps how far away we are from that, or how impossible some of our hopes are. And that's, in that sense, philosophy, even those initial questions, you never escape having to raise them again and again, because there's always that impulse to stupidity and blindness, I think. And then I can't speak for everyone, and maybe not true in the highest cases of Socrates, but one does have a certain bias towards delusion, I would say, and that goes throughout life. Yeah. But the second part I would say is, it's not the case. This is a mistake. It's not the case that there isn't an insight, a solution that one sees to the problem. Uh-huh. The problem is more, can one live with the solution? That's the difficulty, and that seems to me why the classics, meaning by especially Plato and Aristotle, seems to me the primary reason they were skeptical of the idea of enlightenment is because of the difficulty, even in the best cases, of living with clarity, living with the answer. It's not that there isn't an answer to the question, what is justice? I think there is an answer that Plato shows us in the Republic. The problem is living with the answer, and the reason why there's all these confusion over a question like justice is because it's extremely difficult to accept the answer. So
yeah, no, a lot to think about there. That's for sure. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're reading at the moment, and maybe even more importantly, what are some of the problems or questions, these big questions that you're wrestling with at the moment? And I know, and feel free, you don't talk about this, I know you've done a lot of work on love as well, love in Plato, and in Symposium, Plato's Symposium in particular, but it doesn't have to be about that. What is gripping your soul right now?
Well, right now I'm really quite happy, and I'm working on this. So we're doing a reading group with some friends on Homer's Iliad.
How is this happening outside Abigail Adams Institute? This is a crime. Anyway, sorry, go ahead. Yes.
Abigail Adams is a model.
Yes, it's a model.
Other groups
that's right. And it was in this case. No,
it's very generous. It's a model.
It is.
Hope that
we are a river to our people.
That's right.
Yes. Go ahead. Yes.
So the Iliad, and it's interesting because it's such a incredibly packed and beautiful and difficult work to go through, and it's in a way it combines or sets the stage, I would say, for both these two big works of primary different angles. Plato goes in the Republic and Symposium, that is the focus on the question of justice from the point of view of justice, and Symposium abstracting and focusing on things from the point of view of eros, from erotic desire, and Homer. It's there isn't this thing that Plato does of just abstracting one or the other to analyze it. It's combined together in this wonderful way of where the human passions are projected out into the cosmos in the form of these gods, right? And then you see, I think more naturally, the way human beings make the world, wish the world to reflect what they want, because there's none of this. In the modern scientific world, there's this obstacle, this artificiality, I would say, interposition, where we've sort of been kind of compelled to live with a world that is more at odds, I think, with our passions. Whereas in the Homeric world, it's a much more natural, immediate I think, direct reflection of the passions. And what's an example? I just a simple example of the way the gods function in Homer. You will notice the heroes, like the Christian model, blame if something goes wrong, blame themselves for not for dishonoring the gods or doing something to offend the gods, and therefore some evil has befallen them for that reason, and so they blame themselves. But they also sometimes blame the gods when things go wrong, and in either case, blame is primary, and the gods are switching, have different roles, but they're a primary component in blame. But blame is a way, it seems to me, of making the world just. Consistent with having the hope for a just world in some way. That whether you blame yourself or you blame the gods, there's the hope that things can be made right, that there is something that can be done, and some rectification and so forth. And that, so I would say that it's beautiful the way that is woven in to the natural attraction for nobility, perfection, and sweetness. And so the whole thing weaves together. In Homer.
In Homer.
Yeah, in Homer.
Iliad in particular.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so with Plato, I mean, let's say in the Symposium, you get a step removed because you're stepping back from the phenomenon and you're analyzing. So it's a cooler, more abstract, I would say a second stage. Because that Plato presupposes Homer in the same way that maybe you could say comedy presupposes tragedy, meaning you have to be in touch. It seems to me, maybe have to is too strong, but it's a great help to have, be aware. Be aware of one's own most extreme hopes. So one advantage I would say of religious people, and this is speaking of the advantage of Homer as well, is to have dogmas that maybe more secular people think are crazy. That there should be a life after death, let's say. That there should be a final judgment where all people who are wrongdoers get exactly, the right punishment, and the innocent get rewarded. To have this kind of gorgeous, fantastic, give a limitless vent to one's own hopes for the most, noble and just world. That if you give expression to that, then later, it seems to me, you're able to recognize that in yourself, and then you're able to think about it. But if you don't have that initial step, then you have much more difficulty recognizing those things in you, and they are in everyone. It's just a question of whether they're open or more hidden. And so it seems to me allowing yourself to love what you love, and allowing yourself to hate what you hate, and to put it out and to state it and to give expression to it is a valuable, and to articulate it it's an important first step, and it's hard to make up for if you didn't have it in childhood, but it's the foundation, it seems to me, or one of the best foundation I can think of for philosophy later on, is to have that preparation. And there's all kinds of mixed up cases you see in Plato, and how are they mixed up? There's an example of Thrasymachus in the Republic. He's a guy who does think that he's beyond justice, above justice. He scoffs at Socrates for these naive beliefs. Don't you know that anyone who, with any sense, would want to be tyrant and would want to get away with doing whatever he wants, and not have to obey the law, and not have to pay the penalty when he does something wrong, and be able to commit the most fantastic crimes, all of that. So he thinks he's giving a terribly sophisticated, he's terribly sophisticated and wise compared to Socrates. But then Plato is able to show, it seems to me, in the case of this person, just an example, he doesn't know himself very well. That he very much does believe in justice. That even this guy believes in justice. That he believes, but in a way, he believes that tyrants deserve to be happy. Weirdly enough, that they ought to be recognized as good people, as just people. And the very fact that he goes around telling everyone, "Don't you see how smart I am?" And you have to, try to hit people over the head with this. That's not obviously not.
It's an inclination towards justice, right?
It's an inclination just because if you were serious that tyranny was the best, you wouldn't go around telling people tyranny is the best.
Yeah. Maybe Callicles is closer.
Callicles is a similar confusion, and there it's much more obvious because he talks straightforwardly about
the tensions there. Yeah.
Yeah, the person who by nature should be freed of all restraints and deserves. This word "deserve" is one of these tip-offs. If a person claims to be beyond justice, but he's always talking about what he deserves, or what that's wrong, that somehow it's wrong to keep to be kept down in some way. That he believes in justice. So and so, but again, people like some Callicles have difficulty accessing that or seeing that impulse in them for what it is. I think, and that's
It's helpfully drawn out by
Yeah.
Socrates, by
Yeah.
Plato Socrates.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this discussion and this really rundown
Yeah.
that you've given us. I would be remiss if I didn't end on the note of any stock recommendations for the Abigail Adams Institute.
No, you're smart.
Thank you.
The market's a little high now.
The
but
market's too high.
Yeah, but no, I'd still.
You still invest?
In NVIDIA.
Any particular futures? Anyway. So thank you, Manuel Lopez. We look forward to seeing you next week at the great conversation. And
Thank
thank
you.
you for joining us.
Thank you.